So welcome to Whippoorwill Holler. I'm Miss Lori, and this is Mr. Brown. We live in the hills of Arkansas. We love the Lord. Keepers of the old way, but accept some of the new. We love to cook. We love to eat. We love to garden. It's in our blood. It's how we stay sustainable and fill our pantry. We do a lot of canning and preserving. We live a sustainable life. We love our family. We work hard. And every once in a while, we like to dance. So y'all join us. Hi guys, welcome back to the Homestead. I'm so glad y'all are here with us. We have been some busy bees, just like a lot of other people out there. And on top of that, we've been spending time with the grandbabies. So we thought we'd just get on here today. And, sometimes, well, most of the time when we get on here, it's just life in general. And that's what we're going to be doing today. But what I want to do today, too, is to answer some questions about the way I do some things. For instance, somebody's wanting me to do another sauerkraut video. So we're going to be putting up just a little bit of sauerkraut today because I did pull some small heads out of the garden. And how I do my herbs, because y'all know that I do harvest a lot of herbs. I'm a herb fanatic, so I always am busy doing that. So we're going to be doing that. And I'm just going to show y'all how I just... besides canning, how I preserve a lot of my stuff. And we're going to be putting up some zucchini today and some squash, and just a few different ways that I do that, because I do put up squash several different ways. And let's see, I'm going to be making a little bit of pesto because I harvested some basil. And a lot of people, you make pesto out of anything, any herb. And I might do mine just a little bit different than most people, but I was going to just show y'all how to do that. And just little things like that. And I think Mr. Brown's want to talk to y'all just a little bit about his chickens. So we're just doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that today. So y'all stay with us and spend a little time with us. And we'll go over a few of them questions that we've been asked. And we'll just have a good time today just talking. So the first thing we're going to do, let's take a stroll through the herb garden, the flower garden, and my tea garden, which is out front of the house. And I think I'm going to harvest a little bit of basil, make a little bit of pesto. I just wanted to show you my older pictures of a lot of my spring flowers, irises, how beautiful everything was, and still is. So let's go in the kitchen and make a little bit of basil pesto. After harvesting the basil, I just cleaned it real good, and then I put it in a salad spinner and tried to get as much of the moisture out as I could. And I'm just using my hand-cranked food processor here because I'm not going to do a whole lot, and I don't want to drag my big processor out. Or I do have another electric little food processor, but we buy stuff like this in case we are without electricity and have to go off grid. We always try to have as much as we can that doesn't take electricity. And this is a little bit of work, but it keeps my arms in shape, I guess you could say. But it does the job. Now I'm just going to crank it, and we're just going to kind of chop up this basil a little bit at a time. And it will take a little bit more time doing it this way than with electric, but you know what? That's okay. So we're just going to chop this up. And I don't chop my pesto up as much as a lot of people do. I like to leave it not chunky or anything like that. I just don't puree it like a lot of people do. And I'm just going to put I don't know, probably half a cup of pine nuts in here, and you can use walnuts are good too. And I'm going to put a big tablespoon of minced garlic. And I'm not going to put Parmesan in here because when I use my pesto, I'll be putting Parmesan in it later when I use it anyways. So we're just using the basil, the pine nuts, and the garlic right now. And we'll put some olive oil in it in just a minute. And I'm just going to kind of chop it up as good as I can. And then I'll put the rest of the basil in it and continue chopping it till we get it all where I need it. So I'm still a chopping and a pulling and a going, but we just about got it done. And like I said, I don't puree it like some people do. So you do it how you want to. You can still see some of the pine nuts in there. And when you put this with a little bit of fettuccine and a little bit of chicken, it's really good. And I'm going to pour about probably close to a couple of tablespoons before I'm done of a good olive oil. And just continue to process it. A lot of people do this in their electric processor, and it just really purees it. But I just like to get it to where it's good and chopped up good. And like I said, I'll put Parmesan in it when I use it, is when I add my Parmesan. So I'm just going to kind of scrape the sides down and see where I'm at on it. And the way I'm going to preserve my pesto is I'm going to put it in ice cube trays and we're going to freeze it. Pesto, this kind of pesto is really good on chicken, of course pasta. There's all different kind of recipes. I like putting it on a pizza crust when I'm making pizza instead of using like pizza sauce. Just depends on what kind of pizza I'm making. Put you a little bit of pesto on your crust and it's really good. You don't want to just load it up with pesto because pesto's, it's kind of a stout. But it's really, really good. So you can see the consistency that I've got. And the pine nuts are just pine nuts. Pine nuts are not just puree. They're still in there pretty good. It smells so good. So we're just going to put this in the ice trays. And I'm not going to have a full ice tray full. But, it's going to take us a little while to even eat the pesto that I made because, we might use it maybe once a month or something. Not very often. Maybe twice a month. So I can keep making fresh pesto and freezing it. But this will be plenty for us, for me and Mr. Brown. And to me, this is the best way for me to preserve and make my pesto, is doing it like this and freezing it. It's a good idea. So I planted a different kind of cabbage this year, and I was a little bit disappointed, but I went ahead and harvested a few of the smaller heads. I'm going to let the rest of them get just a little bit bigger for I harvest them. And I've washed them good, picked off the outer leaves that were so ate up, and I'm just going to make just a little bit of sauerkraut today. Now, I've got plenty of sauerkraut in my pantry, but I'm going to make more, of course, because sauerkraut lasts a long time in your pantry when you can it and store it. But I like to ferment my sauerkraut before I can it. And, of course, you can just, after fermenting, you can just stick it in your refrigerator and just eat it like that as you go because it'll stay good in the refrigerator. In fact, it'll keep fermenting as it's in the refrigerator. But if you want it for, long-term use, you can can it and put it in your pantry. I do have a video where I done it the way Grandma used to do it, and it always works out for me where you just can your cabbage, and it does ferment a little bit, but I've had some people that's had a lot of problem with that, so I would say the best thing to do is to just go ahead and ferment it first and then can it, or stick it in your refrigerator, either one. And I'm not even going to get out my fruit processor to shred all this up because I don't really have that much I'm going to do today for y'all. Just going to do just a little bit, and so I'm just going to shred it up. Y'all know how I like to chop veggies up, so it doesn't bother me. So we're just going to chop it up real good. You can leave it in shreds, or you can chop it up like I am, just however you like it, the texture of it. I'm going to use a wide mouth gallon jar today. Of course, it's not going to be full, but that's okay. You can use a quart jar if you want to, if you don't have very much to ferment. Now, usually when I do this, I do it in a big glass. It's a big crock, like, with a lid on it. And I always do a lot at a time, but today we're just doing a little bit, like I said. But I also have a crock, a pottery crock that I ferment in, and it does a good job. But you can just do it in your mason jars. It will work. It's for sure. So we're just going to get all this chopped up good. And if you want to, you can even put some different vegetables in here while you're fermenting your kraut. You can put carrots. You could, if you like a little bit of spicy sauerkraut, you could put you some jalapenos in here. You could put some bell peppers, banana peppers, just whatever your heart desires, because it's all going to ferment together and it's all going to be good. But I just want plain kraut. That's all I'm wanting. So we got it all chopped up, and we're going to put, I measured out that it was probably between 3 to 4 pounds of cabbage here. And I'm going to put about 1.5 tablespoons of canning salt. And so all this process is that you're going to massage that salt into that cabbage. You're just going to do it with your hands. It's just part of the process. And actually, I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. And it's like a lot of things. I find it very therapeutic, and I feel like I'm accomplishing just another thing for our pantry, for our, to eat, you know. And this is the way they done it years ago. No fuss about it, just easy, and it always seemed to work out for them. Danny's grandma always had a big crock in her well house, and the well house, it was a room off to the side. In fact, it had a bed in it, and that's where you would draw water up in there, and that room stayed cool the old well was right there in that room, and they had a feather bed in there, and that's where she kept her kraut too. And he remembers going in there, and that kraut was always in that big old crock, and they would just dip out what they wanted, if they wanted to eat that day. So that just goes to show you that kraut's it's been around for many years. Fermentation's been around since the beginning, so it's a good thing, and it's so good for your gut. And we just love sauerkraut. We just love it. So just keep massaging all that salt in there, and that's just going to really wilt your cabbage down and get them juices to come out. So that's good. We're going to let it set for a while. Yeah. Then we'll come back and put it in the jar. So it's been sitting a good while. You can see how it's kind of settled down and wilted. And I got my jar sitting down here in my sink on the other side of my bowl. And I'm just going to start putting my cabbage down in there. See, I've got a gallon wide mouth jar. That's all I got. You can put it in any size you want to. I'm just going to start putting it in there. You can do as much as you want. You can do a little, or you can do a lot. I just want to show you my jar, show you what I got in there. So now we're going to start stomping. And what this is, it's just, now you can buy your your kraut. I don't even know what they call it, but it's like a puncher. It's like a stick, and you just punch your kraut down. I've just always used this. This was the end of a curtain rod is what it was. And Danny cut it off for me. And not only do I use it to stomp my kraut down, but I also use it to roll out my pastries for my fried pies because it's just the right size. So it comes in really handy. So what you want to do is you just want to keep stomping, stomping, stomping. And what you'll see is you'll see your brine because the salt on there. Now you don't rinse your salt off. You leave your salt on there. And you just stomp it down like that, and you'll see your brine start coming up to the side. See them juices start from just you punching it down. And then you add some more to it, and you just continue to keep punching it down just like I am. And it's another workout for your arm, but it's also worth it. But it really don't take long before your brine really starts coming up. I wanted to show you a different angle so you can see how that brine's coming up the side and how I'm just keep pushing it in there. Now, if I had a whole gallon jug full, it would take a little while. But, like I said, it's worth it. Especially if you love homemade kraut, it is so worth it. And if you don't can it, and you just put it in the fridge after its fermentation, it does have more of a Christmas. I can't even talk today. It has more of a crispness to it. And you can see how that brine's starting to come up the side here. But I do can quite a bit of kraut. So I'm going to add just a little more cabbage to it. And we're just going to keep on stomping. And I've also got a quart of water, with a tablespoon of canning salt in it. And that's my brine to pour on top in case I don't get enough brine to cover the whole, all the cabbage. And that's usually what happens. I usually always have to put a little bit of salt water in here with it. So we're just going to continue to keep punching down the cabbage and working it. And I always say anything worth having is worth working for, and this is this is one of them. Back in the day, you didn't have any choice because you had to preserve your foods, and if you had cabbage and you couldn't. Of course, if you had a root cellar, you could keep your cabbage heads in there. But sauerkraut was just one of the things they fermented because it was good. People liked it. And okay, you can see how it's starting to get a little bit of brine up there on the side. We'll just keep working. I'm going to try to, it's probably going to be blurry. I was going to try to show you inside. It might be a little bit blurry, but sometimes you just got to see a different angle of it. It is a little bit blurry, but anyways. We're just going to keep a stomping. Keep working that cabbage. It's just another good workout for your arms, and we know I need it. And this is really pretty too when you put like carrots, shredded carrots with it, stuff like that. But we love sauerkraut with Polish sausage, kielbasa, just on a hot dog, chili dog. I like to take, now you can see I'm going to push down Can you see that brine? You can see that brine starting to work its way up the top. And that's what you want. You'll see it. It'll finally start. You know, you'll think I'm never going to get my brine started, but you will. But usually you always have to add a little more salt water to it too. Because you want to make sure that you keep that cabbage absolutely covered in brine. You don't want none of your cabbage getting any oxygen to it, because it will turn brown. Now what we're going to do is, you want to, first off, you want to make sure that you got all your cabbage off the side of your, as much as you can off the side of your jar. And I'm going to add, like I said, some more brine to it, because I did not get enough brine to come up the sides. And I'm just going to scrape down some of that cabbage that's come up the side of my jar. I'm just going to take some of the cabbage leaves that I saved from the outside of the cabbage head first off, and I'm going to put it on top of my brine and my cabbage and kind of push it around the sides, so that that brine, you'll feel it come up around the sides of them cabbage leaves. And I've got some weights here. They're just glass weights, and it's not, they're broke up into 3 pieces. That way you can get them in your jars easier. If you had just one round weight, you couldn't get them in as many crocks and jars. So I like it when they're broke up in 3 pieces. And it's just weighing that down. It's keeping all of that under that brine, you see. And this was just the weights and the lid. I'll show you in a minute. They come in a kit. This is the lid, and I'll show you how I use it here in a minute. I just want to show you what it looks like. So here's the lid. It come in a kit, like I said, and I'll put it. It'll be in my Amazon store, and I just put it on there tight. It fits a wide mouth. It's an extra large, and up here on top it has a little dial on it, and I'm going to put it on the 25th, so I'll remember when I started my fermentation. So the lid has a little calendar on top. Then it has the little rubber deal on top in case the gases get too much. It'll pop up and keep it from trying to explode, is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, there it is. And here's the kit. I want to show you again. It's got the little calendar there. You just put like whatever date that you're fixing to put the lid on. That way you'll remember. It's got a good rubber seal on it. And it's a really good kit. It's not expensive. Like I said, I'll put it in my Amazon shop. It's got the little pop valve there. Now, most of the time, this will be the first time that I really use this lid, because I usually just use my big crock, which has a lid, and I'll put either some muslin material over it or flour sack or something. But I'm going to use the...
Well, good morning, everyone. We've done a little bit of swapping around here on the homestead on chickens. The other chickens, the egg layers that I had were a cinnamon queen and we had a few of the white sex links and such, and very good productive egg layers. Them hens would lay basically year round, but they were getting to be about 3-year-old, and it was time for us to replace them. And we decided to go with a heritage breed that was developed in New York by 4 men somewhere in the 1860s. And they are Wyandottes. The first Wyandot was the silver lace, and we had the silver lace, and the next they come up with was the golden laced Wyandotte, and I have 6 of each here, and they are 16, maybe 17 weeks old, roughly, and they won't be the layers as far as egg production as much as the other hens were. They're a very pretty chicken, but they were developed as a dual-purpose bird for meat and egg layer. That's why they come up with them. In the 1800s, they didn't have that dual-purpose chicken, and this was one of the first that they come up with. It may not have been the very first, but it was one of the first. You just have to you have to look it up and read more about it. But they'll lay about 200 plus eggs a year, about 4 a week per chicken. And they will get a little broody, and they will set. But you see how pretty that silver lace Wyandotte is. They're a docile breed. The roosters are calm and seem to get, along good with children. I'm not going to have a real big, or a mean rooster. Not necessarily big, but not a real mean one, causing my grandkids. Well, I ain't going to put up with them either. These hens mature will be about 6 to 7 pounds, which is a pretty big hen. And the roosters get up to around 9 pounds. And we don't have a rooster in here, but we've got some other chickens coming on. Like I say, these probably won't start laying for another few weeks. We got these chickens at a bargain. They were raised in the big chicken houses, which makes them kind of different. They don't know what outside is at first. They come out. For a while, they wouldn't even come out of the hen house. But they come out now. They're getting better. They didn't know what going to roost was. Now they go to roost. They didn't know what drinking out of a trough was. They're starting to do that some. That's because they were in a big chicken house where they was raised. But they're learning. It's all coming back to them. And they didn't know what eating anything green. Like we got some of this cabbage. Miss Lori has harvested some of her cabbage and fermenting some cabbage. But now they're picking at it and they're learning what it is. And sometimes it takes these chickens 20 to 22 weeks to start laying. But we'll see. These are about, like I say, about 17 weeks old. I've put them on egg ration, and we'll see what happens. And I was aiming to mention that they are very cold hardy chicken. They're very well feathered. They have a rose comb. They keep a short comb on them. And it's starting to rain. But they supposed to fare real cold weather really well. And we got some more ducks. We had a critter around here catching ducks while we was gone, letting them out. But these are some of my favorite ducks. These are mallards, young mallards. Got 6 of them. Miss Lori was by the feed store one day, and she come home with these. I believe they're barred rocks. I don't believe they're Plymouth. I think they're barred rocks. It's that one there, that red cone. I believe that's the rooster. That'll probably be the rooster we have for a while. These are out in the garden in a little house, a little pen. And we're going to use this pen to hold some of our chicks that we raise ourselves. We're eventually going to raise some ourselves. keep them from predators inside the garden fence and inside this small wire pen, little house pen. And we'll probably keep a few hens in here in the fall of the year and turn them out in the garden and let them scratch and debug and do a little bit of fertilizing in the fall. This little house has a upstairs where they can go up to roost, and we had these chickens upstairs for a little while because we had them baby ducks downstairs for a while. But the bedding, it's got a slide-in tray that you can dump that out. It's got a slide tray. They can come up the roost from an outside up through there. And as they get bigger and want to roost, they've got a little roost poles up here they can roost. We won't keep very many in there, but just to raise a few baby chicks, or if we buy some once in a while. And like I say, we're gonna, it's out in the garden itself. I put it up on some concrete blocks to keep it up out of the dirt as much as possible, so it'll last a lot longer. We'll put them out here. We're gonna, like I say, keep a few hens out here, turn them loose in the garden when we get done harvesting all of our garden, and let them scratch and do their chicken thing in the fall of the year.
Okay, we're going to start with our rosemary, and we're just going to go take the stems and just pull backwards on the leaves, and they'll come right off your stem. And I keep my stems because I have a lot of use for them. I usually just put them in like a plastic bag, or put them in a jar if you want to. But you can put them like when you're roasting a chicken or a turkey, and put it in the cavity. When you're roasting vegetables, just throw you a couple of stems on top of your veggies. And them stems still have a lot of essence from the rosemary. I mean, it'll really flavor whatever you're cooking up, so I don't get rid of them. So I just continue to take all the rosemary leaves off, and then we'll put them in a jar, and that's how I preserve my dried herbs. And I do all of them that way. But I even use my stems, and I put them down in the jar that I make my homemade surface cleaner. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And this is my homemade surface cleaner. When I made lemonade the other day, I saved my lemon rinds and just filled the jar up with distilled vinegar. And now I'm just going to put some of these rosemary stems down the side. Rosemary is a good cleaner, a good disinfectant. So just stuff them down the side, and I keep a lot of surface cleaner in the pantry. Anytime I have extra orange or lemon rinds, and sometimes I even take the old jar and throw them in the old jar and just fill it up again, continue to fill it up with vinegar. Just kind of keep that jar going. So all we got to do is put our lid on, and we got some pretty good surface cleaner here. It's a good thing. And I got my oregano here, and I do it the same way I do my rosemary. And, once I get my dry herbs in my jars, whenever I need some Italian seasoning, all I do is go to my jars in the pantry, and I pull out a handful of my dried rosemary, a handful of my oregano, a handful of my dried basil, and just whatever, and I put it in my spice grinder, and that's how I make my Italian seasoning. That's a good thing too. So that's how I preserve my herbs. And this is my fennel. I want to show you. This is dry fennel. I use it a lot in making sausage and in my pickling. And I don't take it off the stem. I just put stem and all in a jar, and it's good and dry. And I'll just fill it up and put the lid on it. And that's how I do my fennel. And that's how I do my dill too. And if I need it, I just take some out and I chop it up. Okay, let's talk zucchini. I like to shred and put a lot of my zucchini up, and that's what we're fixing to do. And no, I'm not shredding it into the sink. There's a bowl down there. I just want to show y'all. I just cut it up in chunks and shred it. You shred it however you need to. This is, of course, y'all seen this, my handy dandy hand crank shredder. And it does the job pretty quick without having to use electricity or having to pull all the big shredders out or whatever. I use a lot of shredded zucchini, especially when I put it up in the freezer. And around Christmas time or the holidays, I can grab a couple bags and I can make up some zucchini bread, zucchini brownies, zucchini whatever, and give them out as gifts. So putting zucchini up it's a very good thing. And I can tell you, it puts out some of the moistest bread and brownies you've ever ate. So once I get all this shredded up like this, and like I said, you shred it up however you need to. And I don't even blanch it. I just put it in a bag and put it in the freezer. It's about that easy. And here you can see I've got my quart bag. And you can go ahead and just put your zucchini in. Now, I got to back up a little bit. After shredding my zucchini, I put it, you can either put it in a cloth and squeeze most of the moisture out, or put it in your salad spinner, one or the other. Now, I'm going to show you the best way to do this, and that is to measure it out in 2 cups in each bag, because most of the recipes that I use call for 2 cups of shredded zucchini. So really and truly, that's the best way to do it. Like I said, I do not blanch my zucchini before I freeze it. I'm sure there's some people that do. I've been doing it this way for many years, and it's just fine. So 2 cups in a bag, to me, is the best way to do it. Or you can do it any way you want to. And you just get as much of that air out as you can before you seal it up. You can even take a straw, just push out as much as you can, kind of seal it, and you can put a straw down the side and kind of suck some of that air out and then seal it good if you want to. And I just leave my bags flat, just like this, and it'll make several bags. I can stack them up in the freezer, and they won't take up much room. So it's about that easy. I mean, and you got something good that you put up for the winter time. And you can make zucchini fritters, just anything you need, and it works. I don't like doing things complicated. I just like to do it, and you know, people have their way of doing things. When I show you how I do it, it's just how I do it, and I'm not going to show you something if it didn't work for me. And when you've done something for, 40, 50 years and it works, it works. So now we're going to move on to yellow squash, and the grandbabies are here. Hi, grandbabies. They're staying busy with their Legos. But y'all want to see how I put my squash up? I'm going to show you real quick. Yes. They want to say hello. Anyways, you cut your squash any way you want to. If you want to cut them in round disc, cut them in round disc. If you want to do it chunky like I like it, do it in chunkies. And we're just going to throw it in the buttermilk. We're not using any egg. So we're just going to throw it in the buttermilk, and we're just going to swish it around in the buttermilk and get it good and coated. And in my other pan, I've got self-rising flour, and I've got salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, and some cornstarch, probably a couple of tablespoons of, or no, take that back. It's about a good tablespoon of cornstarch. And if y'all remember in my video of frying squash, the cornstarch just helps to crisp it up a little bit. So, other words, you can do it this way, or you can roll it in buttermilk and then roll it in cornmeal, because I do it both ways. You can do it the flour method, or you can do it in cornmeal, buttermilk and cornmeal, whichever you like best or want to do it, they both work. And what I do is I just roll it in the dry ingredient, and I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet in layers. And then I'm going to flash freeze it. And what that means is just laying them out, like I said, single layer, sticking them in the freezer, let them freeze for a couple hours. Then you just take them out, and they're good and frozen, and you just throw them in your bag. Now, the thing is, when you go to cook your frozen squash, don't thaw them out. Take out what you need out of your bag, and you either deep fry them frozen or you oven fry them frozen. But you don't want to let them thaw out, that's for sure. So here they are, and I've got them all ready to put in the freezer. So after they're good and frozen, I'll just throw them in a gallon-size bag, and every time that I get a bunch of squash, I'll do the same method and just keep adding to my bag. Okay, guys, well, we got quite a bit done today, and we're going to spend the rest of the day with the grandbabies. So I hope y'all have a very beautiful day. Enjoy yourself and be safe. The garden's really starting to put a lot of stuff out, so that means we're really busy canning and putting up. So if it's a few days before we get another video out, just know it's not because we don't want to. It's just a very busy time of the year. But we will be back with another video in a few days. And like I always say, you never know what we're doing here on the homestead, but we're always doing something. So guys, we love y'all. God loves you. And it's just another day on the homestead. So y'all come back and be with us and be blessed.